There we go. Hello, everybody.
Coffee is on.
It is. Coffee's pouring good today. We are live. Good Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve.
Live and alive. Yes.
Come
on in, folks. We see you out there.
It's myself, Mr. Zimmerman, and Daphne Lage is here. If this was a studio environment, I believe a couple things. I believe one, that Daphne would walk in with an entourage, and I believe Daphne would be the last one here and the first to leave.
Probably, yeah, most likely. Somebody has to clean up.
Yeah. She'd get in, just slide in right before we go on there. She pick right in, says go right in, then we leave. All right, guys, I got here. She's not gonna be stuck cleaning.
Yeah, no. Pretty much. Yeah.
Cameron in the house says pour the coffee. Pour your own coffee, Cameron. Mr. Payne, bring the pain. Good morning. Thanks for listening, Cameron.
Yeah, it's another Christmas Eve. My tablet reminded me at like 4 a.m. It was Christmas Eve. I don't know what's wrong with it. It was by the side of my bed. It was making this weird noise. I looked and it said, it's Christmas Eve. And I don't know if it's because it's an Amazon tablet and it wants to remind me that, hey, you got Amazon Prime. If you pay ridiculous amounts of money still, you can still get a gift delivered today.
Right.
Yeah, you can get that.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Oh, you know what's funny? It's like, yeah, today is Christmas Eve. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Daphne realizes where she is. What? Christmas Eve? Holy crap! It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah, really.
This year is almost over. Thank God.
Did you see the thumbnail I did up this morning?
I did not. I didn't see it. I imagine that it's I can go take a look.
It's a bit Christmassy.
Oh, okay.
Is it Christmassy or is it
2020E?
Yeah.
No. It's more Christmassy than 2020E.
Right.
Screw this bug. Glenn Ford is in the house. No coffee. We drink apple juice here at
Ionica's Toy Review.
Ionica's Toy Review. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. Happy holidays.
I thought looks like Trico's in the house. Merry Xmas Eve to my Indie Vault peeps. Merry Christmas Eve, Trico.
Joe D. McPhee. Morning, all. Apologies for being AWOL over the past few shows.
Yeah, he was you were AWOL, and apparently that's you got to be brought back to the you have to be brought back to command and chastised.
Joe, you need to go back and definitely listen to last night's Geekcast.
Oh boy. Yeah, I was kind of a little too awake last night.
We had a wonderful letter from someone named Shelby.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure if Varian's going to bring up again today or not.
Maybe.
I actually said, wow.
Yeah.
Over it. And we went on for about, probably 15 minutes. So.
Yeah, everyone had their chance pissing on that hydrant.
I'm pretty sure Shelby will never listen to us again.
Oh, I'm sure they're obsessing.
Put those blinders on and those plugs in the ear and never come back.
Yeah.
Fresh off of her run, coming into the green room, we now have Meredith Lager and Meredith. Hello.
Tag team.
Yeah. Meredith, did we announce that we didn't mention your special? We didn't give you congratulations last night. I forgot about that. on Geekgasm, we should have congratulated you, Meredith. Is that okay to do?
It is okay. I'm not sharing pictures because
of course
of privacy and confidentiality and all that stuff. But yes, we may announce.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Meredith is a first-time grandmother.
Yay!
First time, and she's now in the grandma club, which apparently entitles you to spoil the child to the point of your own children's dismay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. I'm kind of one of those people who it might sound grinchy, but I'm going to be one of those grandmothers who will probably give my grandchild a box for the first couple of years of their life for Christmas presents, because from experience, I remember my kids tearing up the paper. That was fun. Take the toy, throw it over their shoulder, and play in the box.
Yeah.
So,
hey, never underestimate a good box.
Yeah.
Right.
No, really.
I mean, and I remember when I was a kid, I would take all the sheets and blankets and pillows and make forts out of the tables and the chairs and the couches and whatever. I mean, that to me is the best, to still have those memories.
Yeah. See, the problem is though with grandparents is usually, I've watched my own son do and say things that would have put me in a pine box. Like, they would have killed me. And I watch him and I'm like, oh, here it is. This is where I have to save him. Or, all of a sudden, I can start over. And nothing happens. And I'm like, what? Come on. It's like, this is why people don't like the remake or the reboot. Like,
I never thought of it that way. Wow.
Your character is completely different. They messed up the character. I don't know who's doing the writing now, but he's supposed to be pinwheeling through the sky right now. You should have blue screened the death him. I mean, seriously, pop. I don't understand. I don't get it. That's all right. Maybe it's just my household.
Oh no, I was there were days when my father was like, go get my belt. Go
get daddy's belt.
Yeah. And you went and got daddy's belt so that you could get a beating from dad. So
yeah. Randy, should I run the intro and come back?
I can get it. Ready? Here we go.
Good day, everyone. Oh, there we go.
Let's put the coffee back on. Here we go. No,
there we go.
Yeah.
We're good.
So, I think that now that we're all here, I wanted to ask you guys a question.
Oh, no.
And it is very important. I want to know if the image I'm going to display right now bothers you guys at all.
All right.
Okay. All right. I'm going to display an image.
Oh,
there we go.
Wrong one.
Does that image bother you guys at all?
Batman and what is?
I know where this is going.
No.
As a side by side.
Does that threaten you in any way?
No.
Should it?
It's Batman, and they're both Batmen, and they're both
am I threatened
lunging?
in any way?
They're both lunging, and their hands
lunging.
Yeah, lunging.
I guess. I mean, I guess if you're a bad guy in the situation, it should be threatening. But as a reader, I mean,
there we go.
Oh boy.
Well,
where are you going with this?
No, I smell smooth brain thinking coming up.
I was on Twitter.
Of course you are. Freaking garbage fire.
And before Varian goes on and explains this to you, I just want to point out that this is real.
Yeah.
He's not joking. He's not pulling anybody's legs. Very serious.
Unfortunately.
This is real. It's real. It's real. Anyway.
Batman, the animated series, I used to watch it on DC Universe. I was a long time. I was one of the founding subscribers of DC Universe because I was the first day I was there. Mm-hmm. And it just recently they pulled it down. And, so for me, Batman, the animated series is always a click away. But they're bringing it over to HBO Max on January 1st. I'm guessing Batman Beyond will be soon to follow, just like it was on DC Universe. Well, the problem is this. This imagery for Batman is triggering to a few people. There was a large group. Well, I won't say large, but
no, there's never a large group. Yeah. Never say there's a large group.
Wait a minute. Are you talking numbers or actually physical large?
Never say there's never a large. It's like 2 or 3 people, or as JD likes to say, it's the same 5 people on the internet. But go ahead.
Well, a very vocal group.
5 weird wackadoos.
Yeah.
A very vocal group, and apparently the guys they have a shot with them who want any scenes like this removed from the episodes before they air, before they're uploaded and released on HBO Max.
Why? Does it remind them of their dad?
They say this is the movement men make when they're lunging for breast. When men are lunging for breast, this is the move we make.
They're lunging
for breast.
For breast.
At what point does this become a them problem? That it's like,
I think we crossed that line a few years ago.
Yeah.
Do you feel threatened by that, man? Lunging is he?
I mean, because honestly, I can show you some pictures. I mean, that you can't even show. That it's like, oh yeah, maybe that would be a little threatening.
well, let me say this. I just showed Lola a picture. I said, Lola, does this threaten you? And she says, no, because I deal with you. Right. So
that's why she wears them heels.
Yeah.
And besides, if you were to lunge at her like that, your arms or your hands would be spread farther apart, and you'd have a smile on your face.
Okay.
Although they said Batman Beyond doing blackface, he sure is. I want him edited. That's right.
I can't get past the flat fingers, but that's just me.
Well, it's stylistic, and
there's stylistic, and then there's 2-dimensional.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
He's got sticks of gum for fingers.
Probably easier to animate.
Well, it'll be easier when you wrap his hands around one of those curvaceous chesticles. They'll round out.
That's what that word offends me.
Chesticles?
Yeah.
I love it.
So you guys think, are they making a big fuss about nothing, or is this?
Yes, absolutely they are, and I'm exhausted by it, to tell you the truth. I mean, really, it's like when they say the personal is political, they mean that the politics in the real world affects you in every single way, not that your bullshit is equal.
I don't think this bothers me, but Trico says I admit I do put on a cowl and cape when I launch for breast. And Jody McPhee says, so these same people would want Lupin the Very poured over the same thing. Oh yeah. I mean, listen, manga's the worst for it.
If they get away with it once, they'll get away with everything.
Right? You see, and that's really what. Okay, like I said, it's the same 5 people on the internet. There is no real complaint about this. I mean, this is literally a split second of animation that they're just making a big deal about because they got nothing else going on, and they want everybody to be responsible for their feelings.
Yeah, imagine if that goes through. They have to change everything. You ever seen a football player reaching for the ball? Like it's like that. They'll have to move all those pictures because it was Fifi's.
And the thing is though, and the thing is though, it's like it never stops with that. They'll remove this picture, and then it's like, oh well, that one, and then there's this one, and then there's this, because these are the people who think that media is the sole place people learn morality. Mm-hmm. And last I checked, no, that's it's like we learn morality from the real world. Like have you gone outside? Do you meet other people? I mean, really, if you're solely learning your morality from TV shows, you got bigger problems than being, triggered by chiclet fingers or something. I mean, I don't know. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Because
and we'd be talking about honestly removing whole sales of animation or seconds of animation. Now, I want to know though, they're not grabbing anything while this rapist here. okay, which I stand by being a horrible person, a horrible creature. Okay,
careful.
This culprit here, Michelangelo.
That's hot.
Okay, yeah, the worst turtle ever. Okay,
says the woman with the furry coloring book.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hot.
Yeah, is engaging in interspecies erotica by grabbing herself a handful of April O'Neil's.
And there's like 37,000 fanfics about this one piece alone.
Yeah.
I think he was going for something in her pocket today.
Yeah, I think so.
The day Michelangelo couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. But yeah, so remove that. That's not bad. He didn't launch. He didn't get himself a handful of this.
It's Captain Field.
Yeah. Excuse me, April.
Yeah.
Batman's not like. And these, by the way, I want to also say something else too. On all these scenes, Batman was lunging at men. He's never lunged at Catwoman that way ever.
Right.
It's kind of telling though. So anyway,
yeah, but the thing is though, like to bring up what Joe said about, like anime, like that whole, that whole thing is kind of like tropey in anime. Mm-hmm. And the thing is though, it's like, yeah, it is. And to tell you the truth, it's like, I don't like it either, constantly seeing it. So I actually try to avoid anime that has it, because it's like, it's like creepy crap, and and I just move on. Just it's like, just recently I finally found an anime that I could watch without cringing. Grand Blue Fantasy on Netflix. And and it's like, okay, great, it's like, here's an anime that, as far as I can tell, is not animated by a bunch of weirdos. So, but the thing is though, it's like, oh, okay, so I know there, it's like, yeah, it's like, I'm not like some stoic thing that, it's like, oh, nothing bothers me. It's like, yeah, this stuff bothers me too, but that's my problem. So it's like, I just try to find things that I know doesn't contain certain things, and that's pretty much it. But it's like, look, I'm allergic to dairy. So I avoid dairy. I don't go out and campaign saying that dairy needs to be banned from every supermarket.
I don't want a Dairy Queen.
The equivalent of what they're doing. Oh, I'm bothered by something, so everybody has to suffer for it.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is now though, like, we grew up in an era where it was our problem. It was our problem to deal with. We could go tell our friends. They look at us like, yeah, well, okay, you want to go see this movie or not? But now we can get online and complain to who we think or we feel.
Well, that's a huge
thousands
problem.
of people, and then every time someone hits that like button or that heart button, we get that endorphin rush. Like, I agree, and they like me. They like me.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, really.
I see that Mike Pence fly is back. He's trying to call around Meredith's hat.
Yeah,
there's a fly. He's just clambering.
One friggin' fly. It's my friend.
Yeah. It's the Mike Pence fly. He's
don't pick on McFly.
Yeah.
Where
back. Yeah.
He's trying to get to her ear to say, "Help me."
Yeah.
I did want to ask you guys. I know we talked about Shelby's letter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, Shelby owes me rent for January.
How did that happen?
She's lived in her head.
Yeah.
Lived in her head? Oh, okay.
We should start sending out rental notices. Like, when people you have lived in my head for 14 days. That's Daphne probably woke up and said, Shelby.
Right. Yeah. No, actually, yeah, that's exactly what I was continuing the conversation from last night, because I'm a weirdo like that. Yeah.
JD's elbowing her and says, I am not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. Stop it. I'm not an idiot.
I talked about it a little bit last night myself. And Lola was like, I don't understand like why she would say that, because we won't align with her viewpoint.
Yeah.
That we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Right.
And she, the thing was, she was attacking the women on the show. Mm-hmm. It was attacking you guys.
They're the easy targets.
Yeah, and it was like, well, what about solidarity? That's what was supposed to be about. And it's like, no, you guys are horrible, and you guys are, you and to say that you have no understanding of what's going on in the industry couldn't be more false.
On holiday weekend too.
Yeah.
Weekend. What's so whatever happened to peace, love, and understanding?
Yeah, nonsense doesn't take a day off.
Well, here's the thing, and this is not my quote. I heard this from someplace else, and I'm going to paraphrase. Your feelings and your fear do not dictate my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You might be able to influence the way I think and stuff, but when you come out of the gate and you don't know me, you don't know my history, you know, or anybody else on this panel, what you see right here, okay, whether we're putting on a front or something like that, and to project whatever crap it is that's in your brain onto everybody else is not fair.
Yeah.
So, you know, sit down and think about that for a little bit. And again, your feelings don't dictate what I do.
And the thing is, like, Daphne's been doing comics. I mean, she showed a picture from the 90s.
Yeah.
She was at Comic-Con dressed up.
Yeah. I have to find the actual photo to get a date, but I'm kind of figuring it was around like maybe like between 99 to 2001.
So, you know, again, you know, a long time in the industry, Meredith, we literally watched Meredith jump into the deep end of comics, like not knowing how to swim, just jumped in there and just started, you know, thrashing about. And now she's like weeks away from starting her Kickstarter, a crowdfunding campaign. I don't know if it's gonna be Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Hopefully she puts her Indiegogo. Anyway, but she's weeks away from doing that, and it's like that's a lot of. You have to give that type of tenacity respect, and this person, Shelby, was not doing that. She was coming in here poking her finger at you guys. Shame on you for not, you know, down with the patriarchy, which is like, okay, fine. If there's some evil cult out here that's degrading women, down with them. But I think that we got rid of NXIVM, so I think it's gone.
I don't understand this whole thing about hating on men either.
Right? Yeah, I don't get that
First
either.
of all, I mean, I've raised 3 boys. I've got a stepson. I've got 4 boys in my life, plus my husband. You know, plus my dad. I love my dad. All right. So I don't understand that hatred of men unless you made bad choices as well, or, you know, and I'm not to put blame on any kind of victimhood. Okay. If you're a victim of anything, that's terrible. And that should be addressed, but because it's cool to hate on the patriarchy, you know, and men in general, all men are bad. I mean, I'm sorry, but the guys these days, they're confused. It's like, you know, should I open a door? Should I open a door? Like, what happened to just manners, whether you're a guy or a girl? You know?
Yeah. I've opened the door for people. If they're behind me struggling, I don't care what's between your legs. Here, let me open the door for you.
Yeah, I mean, and you probably every once in a while get dirty looks or like, no, thank you, I can do it myself. It's like, what happened to graciousness?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can do it myself. She did. They're just afraid that I'm gonna ask for the number, which, you know, I never did. I never got anybody's numbers. I never asked. I didn't know my wife flirt with me till it was too late. Like, oh, you like me? I get it. That's awkward. Okay.
See, my husband just, you know, I mean, we knew each other since we were in high school, but when we started dating, he was just like, you want extra potatoes with that? You know, because he was at a restaurant, you know, and he was feeding me, and I was like, yes, I would.
Yeah. See, man, I'm more with my son, his generation. Man, they're not gonna know how to date or flirt. I'm terrified that he's gonna like, the line may stop with me.
All of my grandkids are girls, and I'm happy for that. Because if there was a guy, I'd really be worried. I would really be. I was telling the wife the other day, I don't know how I would exist under current circumstances. I mean,
well, yeah,
I was horribly socially inept in high school, and you know, hey, you know, whatever. But nowadays, I'd just be scared crapless. No wonder there's so many you know, that marriages are like way down because of this. You know,
Yeah, they are.
and divorces have stayed the same.
And on top of that, you know,
Although the numbers for people just living together is up though.
yeah,
So,
that's
you know,
because
take
they
that
can't afford rent.
information for what you will.
That's because they can't afford rent. I'm just kidding. No,
Well, yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
part of
that
it.
too.
Yeah.
From IndieWorld Radio, the question that came in late last night. I'm gonna read it here. It said, you know, do we believe? And to do we believe? So I guess you're asking us.
In Santa Claus.
Us is the royal we, or just like we specific us?
The comic books.
Okay.
Is the place to change the hearts and minds of a complete society and its people.
Oh, my favorite topic. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
that is an amazing question.
Yeah.
From a very intelligent listener.
That's from Allen, by the way. ALLEN.
I mean, this is something that I've been thinking about for a while because it's connected to all this nonsense. And the thing is, look, I'll be the first one to say that media is not benign. Okay, it's like, you know, corporations, they spend billions of dollars every year trying to figure out how to manipulate your shopping habits and your beliefs, you know, through media. But at the same time, it's not the sole source, because obviously they wouldn't be spending that money if it was, you know, if it was an absolute. You know, it's like they're always, you know, they're spending that money because media isn't an absolute game changer. It's like they can't say, oh, if we do this type of commercial, we'll get this type of response. It's constant moving psychology. The thing is, though, is that because of the ease of social media in contacting creators directly, and the fact that creators, you know, and companies have, well, companies especially have encouraged this behavior. It's like, oh, you're the fan. We listen to the fans. Look at how involved you are in the creative process. And way too many people got it in there, got a big head over that. It's like, oh, this company's listening to me. And when really all the company is doing is taking what they want to go with already and using this to reinforce it, giving the illusion that this consumer had a say. And the problem is that they're extending it to everybody. It's like how these people are treating Time Warner. They're turning around and expecting the same type of attention from an individual creator, as if we're the same thing. And, and it's like, look, in the end, it's like, this is not a pipe, it's like, this is just a painting. This is, those pictures that you showed at the beginning of the thing is not threatening. They're just pictures. Your reaction to it is real, but it's irrelevant to whoever did that artwork, because that was completely not the context they were doing that artwork in.
Yeah.
And it's completely unfair to demand that creators cater to your fear, to your triggers, to your anything. It's like, look, I create my book for me to enjoy it first. If you enjoy it, that's a bonus. But don't get it twisted that you have a say in it.
I'm gonna push back just a tiny bit against that, though, because I mean, there isn't anything that you said that I disagree with. I agree with everything that you said. However, there are other creators out there who love to dive into politics, who love to dive into the controversy of the day. And that's up to them as a creator.
Exactly.
And it's kind of neat because, again, I'm fairly new I'm very new into this. So I don't understand or really know the depth of the history necessarily. But I do know that what I have read, a lot of creators, especially the ones who have I guess withstood the test of time, you know, where people are bringing up their books again, because at that point in time in history, it was relevant to what was happening in the world. So in a way, I can see, you know, I know that comic books were used as kind of a propaganda thing, you know, like let's beat the Nazis and, you know, things like that, where it was a tool because it was reaching the minds of the younger generation. So, but what scares me is these days, what the hell is that messaging? That's the thing that scares me a little bit, you know?
I mean, because the example that I like to use and that I've seen a lot is that people want to ban the book Lolita because they think it encourages pedophilia. And it's like, one, it tells me you never read the book. And if you did, you completely didn't understand it. And it's like, two, it's like no pedophile is inspired. Nobody becomes a pedophile because of Lolita. It's like, it's usually the opposite, where it's like people will find anything to justify any behavior, whether it was created for that or not. So again, it's like, you know, it's like, it's not, Nabokov is not the problem. It's the fact that this guy is a disgusting whatever is the problem. And people not reading the book is not going to change that. You know?
I don't think that comic books, I mean, again, I know at one point, yes, they were the medium to push new ideas, to push, you know, propaganda. I get that.
Well, that's
but,
every piece of media, actually. I mean, we were
right,
just talking about documentaries before the show where it's like, it's all bias.
right.
Right.
But
Right.
but the thing is, nowadays there are different mediums to do that in,
Right.
to try to change the hearts and minds of society. The internet,
Yeah.
mainly.
Well, the other thing is, a lot of times, you know, in the history of it, I mean, I grew up before we had TV in the house, you know, so that was it. It was newspapers, it was comic books, it was radio.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the internet. None of us did.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Varia did.
I didn't get the internet till I was I'm pretty sure it was out, but like I know it was intranet, and then there was like yeah I had AOL like 3.0 was when I got on AOL 3.0.
I mean,
So,
honestly, I kind of remember when I first got HBO, when HBO first existed,
Yeah.
you know, and cable. Like, I remember that. I cannot remember the first day internet existed for me. That's funny.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
but as far as you know, that influence back then, when we didn't have the internet, when we didn't have TV, and it wasn't that instant gratification of whatever was happening in the world, you know, you relied on the newspapers, you relied on the print materials and whatever was over the radio waves, and so I think maybe it was a stronger voice. Whereas today, there's just so much junk out there. I mean, you really have to have a strong filter,
Yeah.
and whatever moral compass it is that you have to pick and choose what it is you're going to consume. You know,
Yeah.
back then we didn't have a lot of choices.
I see Randy is you see he may have turned red. Are you
It's just the lighting.
do you have your soapbox handy, or
I'm
do you need
I'm just listening to
Okay.
everybody else. That's all.
it?
Alan poses a real interesting question, and one that there are going to be books written on when all of this buffoonery is done. You go back in comic history, comics were like what Meredith said. You had newspapers, you had comics, you had the theater. That's it. That's all and the radio. You had that's all you had. Then pulp magazines, then magazines. You had a very limited scope of influence there, and you had when the war hit, everybody leaned into the propaganda of being anti-Nazi and anti-Japanese, and let's you know, the Human Torch suddenly decided it was okay to burn somebody alive as long as they were a Nazi or a Jap. You know, that's the way, the attitude that was done back then. In the 50s, you had that pendulum swing even farther. And somebody who's the more research I do turns out to be more hideous and notorious is Marston Moulton, who literally, though his intentions were amazing and the end result is fascinating, and there have been books written on Wonder Woman, multiple books and documentaries, which aren't, I'm finding out, are not remotely in reality. But some of the books are pretty close. So that documentary is like, or that bioflick is like way off from the what actually happened in real life. But everybody is leaning, the people coming in now into the industry are leaning back on Moulton and not considering the entire context, not considering the entire history of comics. You had all of the Senate hearings back in the 50s. You had the Comic Code Authority that kicked in 55. You had all of these things that have tried to control comics and keep them as kiddie literature. And I'm sorry, they're not kiddie literature. They stopped being kiddie literature with the direct market. Their demographic got older. People aged. Other forms of entertainment came in and slid in underneath, and literally the companies, and much to their detriment, decided what demographic they were going to aim for and stopped aiming for any other demographic across the board. And we had that talk yesterday with the 616 documentary, and how there was a time when Timely was really after the female readership. Millie the Model, Miss Fury was doing a number of books intentionally aimed at a female audience, and they missed, and they stopped, and they started doing male power fantasies. But comics are a form of communication. The problem is the perception of comics are, with the majority of people, is horribly, horribly wrong. And they have been wrong since the 50s. The reason you had the Senate hearings was because there was a sudden upsurge in crime comics and horror comics because superheroes weren't selling anymore. There wasn't a big, bad, nasty villain that was out there, or a society, a solid society that the superheroes could keep going out and fighting, that people wanted to read about. So they stopped. So suddenly the other aspects of the human psyche started creeping in, and the audience for comics got older, which is something that the Senate hearings could not wrap their head around, much to their detriment. The Comic Code Authority literally stagnated comics for 20 years, literally, and kept them as kiddie literature and kept beating them down, even though the audience kept getting older and older and older and older. Now we have an older audience. Marvel, the people that are up there, a lot of people that are up there at the Marvel offices lean on Marston Moulton as some sort of a icon to respect, but they don't understand the psychology. Moulton was out there building up feminism. That was his goal, and he did it incredibly well, did it incredibly subversively, and also brought in a lot of adult aspects as far as fetishism and sexuality into Wonder Woman. He was only around for 6 years. 6 years. Moulton's influence on Wonder Woman was only 6 years.
Wow.
Long. He died of cancer. And DC, who was in control of the property once he passed, automatically turned Wonder Woman into the 50s female. She was worried about Steve Trevor, her relationship with Steve Trevor, worried about keeping him happy and doing, turned into the doting, almost housewife to Trevor, trying to keep her secret identity away from him. And they added a bunch of fantasy aspects. They've always had a rough time keeping Wonder Woman sales up ever since then, because they don't understand the psychology that Marston and Moulton had when he first brought it in. And Moulton also knew that he was dealing with an older and aging audience. The big problem with Marvel today is that their propaganda is aimed to tear down. They want to tear down masculinity. They want to get rid of the male power fantasy, which is on what aspect is a very good thing. But too much of anything is wrong. I mean, just horribly wrong. There should be all sorts of comics out there for all sorts of people with all sorts of viewpoints in all sorts of directions. That's the only way this art form, as an art form, can grow and has to. But you go back and you look at the influences of a lot of different things. Look at the hassles that comics had to go through and that imposed the Comic Code Authority. Look at what suddenly rock and roll was evil and turning kids into juvenile delinquency. That didn't work. Dungeons and Dragons was evil. horribly evil and was tearing down the morality and causing juvenile delinquency and demonism. That didn't work. Suddenly it was video games in general. Video games are evil, or heavy metal is evil, or whatever they could find as a crutch to blame for the psyche of the youth, instead of doing proper parentism and watching their kids. And nowadays, especially, there's a big problem because the internet is so accessible. The kids can sit in their room and literally watch porn if you don't have the right filters out there, and get a hardcore, an improper view of sexuality very quickly if you're not being a parent. You know, and it's and instead of educating the parents, we want to talk about how evil everything else is, or how, you know, men are evil, or don't let, you know, completely screw up the idea of what a relationship is supposed to be, and how the relationship is supposed to work, even a productive one.
You know, I don't think that you can, like you mentioned that Marvel's okay. Here's the thing: the people that want to change things in Marvel right now, I want to understand that
I think you're past tense at Marvel. They have changed. They have changed things there at the offices, but the problem is they are paying for it with their lack of sales and the erosion of the direct market.
You start wondering, has anyone taken a business class there? Because here's the problem: Daphne has read comics for a very long time. Meredith, would you say you've been a comic fan your pretty much entire life?
Well, I mean, I started off with the Sunday Funnies on my dad's lap.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. And guess what? Neither of them ever said, "This is too much. I have to change things." They wanted to contribute to it, not change anything. But what I'm saying is this: change
is good. Adding diversity and viewpoints is great.
That's fine. They were contributing to it. What I'm noticing is that when you go in and you say, "Oh, we have to change this and this," and then you start alienating readers who, well, I liked it this way. Imagine at my favorite pizza place decided they were going to change the way they make their dough. They were going to make different like dough, and all of a sudden I'm like, this tastes like shit. I don't want to eat this anymore. And then
that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
It is. It's more it's happened to a lot of different chains.
And then they get mad at me, and I go in and say, "Hey guys, I really liked the old dough. We didn't make this pizza for you."
Yeah,
but you kind of did. I called.
But you know, obviously, in your saying that, you don't understand or want to make money.
Yeah,
we'll go elsewhere to another pizza shop that makes their dough correctly, or we'll go and make our own dough. And make our own pizzas the way that we want them done. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing about being a consumer, though. You have choices. You have lots of choices now. In fact, I would argue that there are probably way too many.
Yeah.
But the time to look at comics as influencing the youth is long gone.
Yeah,
it was chased off by the direct market. There could be a time come soon. I hope that there's a time where they're catering to that audience again, but the accessibility has got to shift in order to hit that younger market. They're thinking that it's going to happen with the box stores and the YA novels, and that ain't working. I can tell you now, it's not working. Not when Dogman outsells Raina Telgemeier to almost like 5 for 1 anymore. At least from the figures that we've been able to get, because Scholastic. Nobody wants to say what their figures are for that young adult market, because I bet they are.
Is Scholastic a publicly traded company? I have to look that up. If Scholastic is a publicly traded company,
they still hide their figures, very much like Netflix.
Right.
Because they have a couple of different avenues of distribution. They have a direct line into schools, and if parents were parents. And looking at some of that product, that might be completely different.
To write on what Varian was saying about how, you know, we're contributing but not changing, and it's like, well, that's kind of not true.
Any contribution is change.
Well, right, but the thing is, though, I have made changes to my own artwork based on tropes that I've pretty much gotten fed up with. Like the whole, the whole controversy over Boob Armor, and it's like, oh, and it's like, and there just came a point where it's like, you know what? Yeah, Boob Armor is kind of stupid. So what I think, Boob Armor, yeah.
Oh, Boob Armor. Oh,
Boob
gotcha.
Armor. It's like armor with boobs in it, and it's like, and it's like historically that it doesn't really exist outside of decorative, ceremonial armor, and even then it's mostly man boobs. But but the thing is that it was a trope that I finally got fed up with, and I go, you know what? I'm gonna stop drawing boob armor. It doesn't make any sense for me, so I'm going to start changing my artwork, because you know what? I don't need to contribute to something that annoys me. So, it's the same thing with, drawing shorts underneath skirts. It's like, you know what? I think that's cute anyway. So I'm going to be doing that from now on. So those are the changes that I do. That's my contribution. That it's like, okay, so if you're not into those tropes, it's like, my work will reflect that. But again, it's like, I don't go around saying, it's like, oh, all video games have to get rid of boob armor. It's so, it's like, it's like, look, I just don't react to that. So,
yeah, you're not going to contribute to that because you've changed.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to support it because it's like, I find it annoying.
What do you do?
But that's the point that I wanted to make really quickly, is that we as creators also grow. We age. We take the things that we've learned and the things that we give real estate to in our head, and our ideas change. Our art will change. My writing has changed. What I wrote in my 20s is nowhere near what I'm writing when I'm almost 50, And so if we are not allowed as creators to grow, then, I mean, I write for me. I write the things that I enjoy and hope that I find an audience. That's where marketing comes in. But and so if I see something that's happening in the world and I want to write about it, okay, is it going to be timeless? Is anything? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that kind of fell by the wayside. Nobody paid attention to it until it became cyclical, which is what happens with our history and events and things like that. It may be a new decade, but it's kind of like the same friggin' issues. And so when it becomes cool, or when it becomes the in thing again, then maybe it becomes relevant. But as a creator, we're allowed to grow too.
Joe says, isn't that creative preference as opposed to de facto standard? I think he was in regards to what Daphne was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's my art, so it's like it should reflect what I want to see. Like I keep saying that it's like, the comics that I draw, I draw for my 12-year-old inner child would have, liked to have seen, and also the thing is too, I think part of this conversation too is the confusion as to whether art is a consumer product or a discussion. And you see, and the thing is that when it comes to Marvel and DC, I mean, those characters stopped being art in a sense the second they became IPs. They became corporate logos.
When the Underoos kicked out, they were
yeah, exactly. So it's like, so there's a certain way. Commodity. Yeah, so it became a commodity. So when people say that Marvel and DC should be catering to fans, on one hand, I actually understand that, because Marvel and DC are producing the equivalent of artistic pizza. It's like, these are products. They're making products, and culturally, they're more, I guess, like responsible to the masses as a product than if they were art. But like I said before, it's like, it's when that same thought process is trying to be shoehorned on independent creators, where we're not doing product as much as our art is creating a discussion. It's like, like I said, it's like, I'm not here to cater as I am to like, well, this is what I want to see. You either like it or you don't, and you either take it as it is or you don't. I'm not, I'm not trolling Reddit for, like the writers from Game of Thrones and trying and changing their story because the fans are figuring out their writing. It's like, no, it's like I'm doing art. Marvel and DC are creating product. So I kind of think that that's like two different conversations.
That and there's a huge difference, and Marvel has a really, especially, and now DC also has a really rough time wrapping their head around this. There's a huge difference between inclusion and exclusion.
Yeah.
And they need to understand what that difference is, and the fact that excluding key points in the market, especially points that have made you money the last 30, 40 years, is going to make you less money. A lot less money.
Yeah.
And that's what they're seeing now. Suddenly DC's down to 34 titles. Marvel's sitting there scratching their head, wondering why books that should have sold, in their mind, hundreds of thousands, are now selling 20 to 15,000. And that's only because the retailers out there that they hate, that they want to exclude out of the market, feel that they have to carry that product because of that little red box that says Marvel up in the corner. That's the only reason a lot of that product is moving at the moment.
It's funny. I was actually horrified when you said that they lowered that they lowered from 30, that they're making 35 titles as opposed to 100 and something.
34.
And that's just 30. Yeah. And that was what, just DC?
Yeah, and I was 20, going, and like 20 of those are Batman books.
Right. And I'm like going, I didn't even know comic book racks had that many spaces. And that's just one company.
Well, see, that's been the big problem with Diamond. And with the direct market especially, is the way that you keep the independent guys down. They learned this. They learned this before actually Image came out, but Image did a lot of this also when they first started up. Is you make so much product that the little guys are literally pushed out. The retailers only have so much money in their budget that they can afford every month. That's something I learned from Gary Reed. He said, when you do an independent comic company, don't do a comic, and you're going to be in Diamond, don't do a company that is any higher, that the first initial of the company is any higher than a C or a D. That's why he did Caliber. That's why we did Arrow, because the retailers go through and they order all of the exclusive mainstream guys, the Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, even Valiant and IDW now. And then they go to the green section, and they start at the start of the green section, and they only have so much money. And by the time they get to those C's, they're probably out of money. And so they stop. And on top of that, they've been trained in their head, thanks to a market and the irresponsibility of some independent publishers, that book might not even come out anyway, let alone hit an issue 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to order that. I'll just order it for people that have filled out the previews, and you'll be a pull book is what they call it. And you'll only end up in a pull list. You won't even hit the shelves. That's something I learned early on doing Arrow, because when I started up Arrow Comics again for the third time, I was doing very retail accessible titles: Oz, Wonderland, War of the Worlds, just stuff that you can automatically wrap your head around for any retailer that, he's doing a War of the Worlds book. That's Martians fighting humans. Oh, that might be cool. And I quickly learned that we were a pulls only company. So we kept doing the Oz book because the Oz book was fruitful. The Wonderland book went away. The War of the Worlds book wasn't that important, and I started doing types. I went to doing genre books, humor book, barbarian book, commentary book, underground book, that kind of thing, because I knew then, by that point, we were a pulls only company. So anybody that was lucky, and we kept running ads in previews, that didn't help a lot, but that, we were constantly getting browbeaten by lower and lower numbers. Even though we were doing product, to me, the quality level was right up there with any of the mainstream guys. We were still not being looked at, not being appreciated, not being noticed by anybody, because we were stuck in that green section that, as a Diamond rep told me, they just wanted to dry up and blow away anyway. So
real quick, I want to say
that was their goal. If you're in the green section, Diamond doesn't want you there.
From we got someone wrote in, they didn't put the name, but I believe it was a person who we gave advice to on streaming online, and some of the things that you want to watch out for. It said thanks for the advice. They want to know if they want to know if there's any place they would suggest that we stream to if they were because they want to become a streamer. Any is there any device or platform that's best to stream to?
I like Streamyard as long as it cooperates.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I guess if you
It's
mean
very
platforms,
easy.
I think if you mean platforms, though, I mean YouTube is probably the best because it keeps your stuff up there.
All depends on how and what you're going to want to stream, because YouTube has been clamping down on their algorithms harder and harder.
Yeah.
What you might think about doing is multiple platforms. Anything you run on YouTube, put it over on Library, put it over on BitChute. Find different, and the more platforms you hit, the more likely you're going to hit a wider audience.
Can I tell my dirty little secret? It might get me in trouble.
Go
Okay, all right. Let me get my soapbox. When you're streaming online, there are a lot of people who will tell you, "Oh, just focus on this platform, focus on that platform," and it's because they feel that one platform is better than the other. It is true that Facebook will. I reached out to the creators of StreamYard because I was told that Facebook actually wasn't putting people's videos up, or they were throttling them if you use StreamYard. And I thought, how can that be? StreamYard is just a tool for me to connect, just like you would connect through OBS or whatnot. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how that would work. I mean, hell, no one had this problem when they could use Google Chrome. Google Hangouts and stream to Facebook. No one had this problem. So all of a sudden now Facebook is going after a company? Well, they're not. They're really not. I mean, the thing is, Facebook will prioritize their own videos that are going natively through their app. That is true. But let me tell you this: a lot of people will talk negatively about StreamYard. There's another one, I forget what that one's called, Restream, and they'll do this because one, they're cheap. I've never seen so many successful broke ass people in my life who will tell you, I'm successful, I know what I'm doing, but I'm broke and I won't pay for StreamYard. They're lying their asses off, and they like that endorphin rush they get when they scroll through Facebook and they see, hey, I've got 200 viewers on this video. No, you don't. 200 people have scrolled past your video, and Facebook counts that as a view. You want to know how you tell them, and this is what they don't want to hear, and I know that there's some people out there right now with their fingers in their ear saying, la, 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 la. If they were getting those views, Facebook would stuff an ad in that video on the replay. No ads in your videos means no one's watching like that. No one. So those 200 views was just people scrolling through.
Check the private comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to? Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I haven't checked my thing. Yeah, it's just people scrolling through. So don't be afraid to go out there and try new mediums to contact people. Don't be upset if your numbers on one video are super low or super high, or if all your videos are super low. They may all be low, but you still have an audience is going to build. Our YouTube numbers are not where I would like them to be, but our radio numbers are
immense.
Yeah, ridiculously high. If I can get my radio numbers as high as my YouTube numbers, that'd be great. But what I'm discovering is that YouTube sometimes will block content in certain countries,
and knock you off of recommendation lists and all sorts of crap. Yeah,
even though I've said we're safe for every country, obviously we're not, and it's up to those countries. Sometimes they say, you're not going to look at this, you're not going to look at this. They have to approve it. So you can see why those numbers are where they are. But
this video is probably knocked down now that I think about it, because I said the second N-word.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did.
Second N-word. Can't say that.
Not the third N-word. That's Nerf herder.
Yeah. You can't say.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Michael. Yeah, you can't talk about them those Nazi boys. But I will say this. Don't be afraid to stream anywhere. See where you can find your audience, because if you just focus on one and you say, well, I'm not going to get any type of traction on YouTube, I think you're missing a whole YouTube audience there. And there's a lot of people that we have a Roku channel, IndieVolt TV. I've got, I think last I checked, 2,100 cumulative installs. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 2,100 some people that have that channel on their TV.
Now, do you know, like, but how many are people actually watching it?
Oh yeah.
Right.
They provide that information, and they're really good with that. They provide how many watch hours I've got, how many how long people are watching for. Yeah, Meredith, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, Varian, is when it comes to all of these apps and things, there are so many. I mean, my running joke is that I need an app intervention because I sign up for everything.
Yep.
And the reason I do that is so that I can lock in my username because I've been using it since 1999. I don't want anybody else squatting on it. So part of that is branding. And then when you do a Google search, or, you know, I mean, a lot of these apps, they've fallen by the wayside. They just weren't able to get the development or the funding to continue on. A lot of things were in beta, whatever. But the idea was that I went in, I signed up, not because I was going to use it, not really, but it was to make sure that I logged in my username. So that's one thing. The other thing is, where is your audience? Now, if you're coming in new and you're trying to build up your social media and stuff like that, I mean, Facebook's got billions of people, like literally billions of people. So it's really hard to argue not going Facebook Live there. But again, when you have tools like Restream, Streamyard, even Haps now, which is a new one, that's in beta. They've got to build an audience, and I'm enjoying myself there because you've almost got immediate interaction from the community, not because you're live streaming elsewhere. It gives you that opportunity as well. To what Randy was saying, libraries, an option. You've got DLive, DTube, all of these things that are trying to compete.
Yeah.
And again, I have a Twitch account. I see variants live streaming to Twitch.
Yeah.
That there was really made for gamers. Is your audience really going to be there? No, but you could build an audience.
Yeah.
And with that slight opportunity of earning income.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice to have that the residual income from that? I mean, but is that your motivation? Are you going there because that is the end goal? Because quite honestly, I live stream because I'm trying to get my name out there, because I have products that are, so these are stepping stones. Is this the end all be all where, hey, I'm going to make my way through live streaming? No. But it would be nice. I wouldn't say no if I got tips or I grew that audience. So you have to really sit down. I think a lot of people make the mistake of not making a business plan. What are your goals?
Yeah.
And then where do you put your limited resources? Because if you are a party of one or a business of one, you've got to do it all. So you must work efficiently.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, it's okay to live stream to multiple places and try and build up those things, but don't take away from the creative process and the time that you need to do that, to do your work.
I'm just always shocked by the amount of people that I see that they push an agenda. I tell you this, StreamYard and Restream places allow you to stream to multiple sources. They wouldn't be getting all that hate if they were free. If they were free services, some of these people would be like, oh, they're great, that's terrific. The fact that, oh man, I can't.
Oh no, I disagree with that. I think
I think
you'd still get a lot of complaints. In fact, you'd have them crying for more bells and whistles.
Well, yeah.
There's a nasty sense of entitlement when
you got a point kind of thing. You got one point too, because StreamYard tends to rip down that false belief, that endorphin rush, that when you look and you see, hey, I've got 150, 250 views on this video, and you can look up in that corner and you see what StreamYard says you actually have. It doesn't give you that same endorphin rush. So there might be a lot of people, you're right, they're like, nope, I'm not using that because I don't like it doesn't give me that good fuzzy feeling.
Right, as opposed to saying that this is the actual data.
Yeah.
And what do I do with this information?
Yeah. It's like, look, And some of those people do that because they need that rush. They become addicted to that endorphin rush, and is that what it is? Yeah, they become addicted to that, and they want it. And two, a lot of them, what I like about it is a lot of them will quit real quick because they don't see that number go up. And that number not going up means they're not doing anything.
Some should quit.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah. Pop said that the two terms, chest plate and breastplate, excuse me, not that hard to comprehend. I did want to say something.
Boob Armor, yeah.
It's funny because Pops and I have been going off in the chat about that for like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good place. That's a good place for that side discussion to stay too.
It's funny because it's not something I really care about. I just noticed that he had mentioned Athena, and the thing was like, Athena is generally depicted as wearing cloth tunica, and like the only armor she has is her shield and her helmet, and then she's got a spear, like the big things for Athena. But like, I won't go into the mythological.
I did want to say something. When it comes to armor, I know we make this joke about me all the time, but when it comes to armor and boob armor, when I thought Starscream was a girl, it was because of those.
Oh my God!
I thought
on Transformers.
Yeah. No, I thought that was boob armor. I thought it was. However, it wasn't until RC came along, and I thought, really? It's kind of okay. Now that's a female Transformer. Fans though have gotten mad and demanded a remake. Unlicensed remake of RC. They call it
the same 5 people on the internet.
Oh yeah,
clarify.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but this is in the other direction. This is Nicey. Okay.
Oh, of course,
that's nice.
Of course, they want her to look like that. Of course.
Yeah, and you can see that she is she has a lot more curves. I don't know why she needs that.
Oh, I can tell you why
anime,
she needs
bro.
that.
Anybody can tell you why she needs
that.
It's because anime, bro.
Yeah.
Manga.
Because anime. That's all you need to know.
There's your chest plate. There's your chest armor.
Must have waifu.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That figure is I'm sorry, man. Randy, did you put that back up?
Huh?
Did you put that back up? Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I thought that's where you were. Or are you there?
You must be familiar with the work of Sorayama, right?
I think it was.
You must be familiar a little bit, right?
I just thought it was very. You got to have those curves in the armor somehow, and look, no hate on anybody who wants to do it.
No, absolutely not. You know, I want everyone to understand that. You know, it's like that just because, you know, boob armor annoys me doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. You know, it's like, because there was something else going back to that conversation about, you know, smooth brain thinking, where another thing that's kind of like, I see another trend that I see with this type of thinking, that it's like, oh, we have to control media because my feels are getting hurt. Mm-hmm. Is the fact that they're literally ascribing morality to media, where it's like, if you enjoy something, it either makes you a good person or a bad person, when in the end, it's actually media is actually kind of neutral. You know, it's like, my favorite book is it's like my favorite book is American Psycho. I'm not running around being a serial killer, last I checked, although sometimes it's tempting, but you know, it's like, you know, I mentioned Lolita. It's like, you know, I enjoy Lolita, but I understand the themes in the book. You know, I understand what the book is talking about. You know, it's like reading Fight Club. I understand what the story is about. You know, it's like, look, going to anime, it's like, look, you know, I can enjoy a bit of hentai here and there too. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I'm like personally into that. Yeah.
I read Berserk.
Right, exactly.
Am I gonna go off on a murder spree and just kill people for the hell of it? And,
it's funny, you know, that's what Glenn said earlier. I didn't just put that up, but he was also, you know, it's also kind of, you know, it's a dig at Meredith. Meredith knows this. Genghis Khan watched a lot of violent films. That's why he decided to take over the world.
Right, and fathered 15,000 children. But it's like, you know, it's like.
By the way, I didn't know there were smooth brain memes out there. There are.
Yeah.
Smooth, no winkles.
Yeah.
cute. Can't think equals no sad.
Winklers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't think equals no sad.
Right. Yeah. No. And that's really a lot of it. That it's like that. These are people who literally can't handle emotion, and they're freaking out, and they're trying to make us as creators responsible. And it's like, honey, that's a you problem. Have you tried therapy? I'm not your therapist.
It's always been something that kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
Where people will like point figure, like, you know, when I was growing up, Power Rangers was coming out, and so there were entire parents groups that were like, Power Rangers are instilling violence in our kids. They shouldn't be allowed. It's like, no, kids are beating the crap out of each other because kids have beaten the crap out of each other for years.
Since the dawn of time.
Because it's like when you're a kid, you're actively pushing yourself to do stupid crap to see how far you can go before you get hurt.
Yeah.
Like kids are going to do stupid shit no matter what. So yeah, they're going to beat each other up. They're just playing pretend. It's the same. Like you didn't see people like go up to the local village storyteller and say, hey, you need to stop reading the Iliad out during these festivals because my toddlers are trying to kill each other like Achilles and Hector. No.
Right, yeah.
Like at the end of the day, all that this does is like it provides escapism, and for people that are growing up, it's something to dip into, and for those of us that are grown up, it's a way to kind of get away from the mediocrity and everything else in our lives. But that doesn't like you. It's one of those things where now people are so afraid of the flack back that you have shit like Looney Tunes being opened with things like the thing. We don't recommend that you try any of the things that you see at home. Like that was like those little disclaimers didn't exist when I was growing up because it was like, yeah, no shit. Right. I shouldn't try and take a stick of dynamite and run around with it like a jacket.
You know, but that's more of a legal. That's their legal team getting involved.
I understand, but it shouldn't have had
do not iron clothing on your body.
It's at the end of the day, it's like those aren't things that like no one has ever said, hey, you know what's a good idea? Go run or go play with a stick of dynamite. No one's ever said that. But
unfortunately, common sense is no longer common.
No, 100%.
I don't think it ever was, actually.
I think I shared this story the other night on Indie Vault where, you know, I was 4 years old. I had a red wagon. We were stationed, you know, my father was stationed in Korea. He handed me some money. He says, go get me a 6-pack of beer, a pack of smokes. And if there's change, you can get yourself some candy. Okay. Now I was 4. That doesn't mean I'm a raging alcoholic right now. Okay.
Nope. Meredith, you're living the life of the party too much, man.
Right.
Okay. Actually, now people would be more horrified that he let you go to the store by yourself rather than you were buying smokes and booze for him.
Now, going to the store by yourself, I completely understand, especially with all the craziness that's going on in the world. Like that I get, but like it. Having like a 4-year-old is walking around with a pack of beer, they don't even know what that is. It's very like it's not like they're there to like just go get shit.
That was daddy's juice.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't touch it, or I got an ass whooping.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine what you walk past? See, that's what the 4-year-olds want you to think. Because when you walk on a 4-year-old walks past you and you're like, hey, what you doing with the Pat Blue Ribbon kid? He says, man, they started this potty training at home. I gotta go home and crack a cold one open. I can't deal.
It's too much.
Yeah, I can't do. I'm teething again. I'm 4. I can't do this.
It's too hard, man.
Yeah.
Life's difficult.
Yeah, that's nope. Randy, question for you here from Indie Vote Radio. But let me read this comment here from Seth. It says they're looking for bankable products. These companies know that if you slap Batman and Wolverine on a product, it will sell, even if it's a toilet seat. They will focus on the sure thing they can pimp out to sell junk over an unknown book title and characters. So in the meantime, they will mine the crap out of these characters and pass over possible quality.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Also, that metal booty though.
Yeah.
That was Pop says how many people are watching sort of matters, but not as much as how many people are engaging.
Yeah, that's the difference.
If I have 10 people watching and nobody's engaging, he kind of freaked out. Yeah. Trico says Odin has a point. Every time I buy a plastic tote, there's a sticker saying not to put a baby in there. Put a baby in a plastic tote. Those things aren't soundproof. I agree. There are some really bizarre warnings, but now you gotta tell people be careful. This coffee's hot. You gotta tell them. Apparently,
so to backtrack to that comment about the putting like Batman or Wolverine on a product, I think that this is one of the biggest shames. You guys had mentioned earlier, right before I hopped on, DC is cutting down their line to 34 titles, which I think, all in all, considering how much they've been putting out, isn't a bad idea. Focus on quality over quantity, because that's what you should want to do. But then again, you also have 20 main Batman books, and that's not including like Bat family characters. You need to stop this stuff. You have other characters that people want to see more of. And in fact, when you go onto these online forums, you have people saying things like, why the fuck are we getting like 20 Batman books?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know the character was that interesting to tell 20 simultaneous stories every month.
Oh, that includes the Batman family titles too. But
yeah,
it's the same motif over and over and over again. That's the problem. It's just like what Marvel does for the pro feminine books. It's just different costume, squirrel tail. Same message.
It's a shame because you have these characters that people really like that haven't been getting the spotlight. You have characters like Captain Marvel over at DC that literally, if you go into like the online communities, people are dying for a new, very good Captain Marvel book, and they haven't been happy with the way the character has been handled since New 52. Like there have been onesies, twosies stories that have come out that people enjoy, like the Convergence Shazam book, which literally took place in Fawcett City and was kind of like it was its own little pocket thing, and so it felt like a classic Captain Marvel book. But like you have all these characters like this that people want, but then you're pushing these characters that you think are going to make you more money. But the fact of the matter is that it's only as good as your creative team, and the majority of the people they've put on these books is for their creative teams are either untested, or if they have been, they haven't lived up. You know, and then you have it, and so like nobody wants to read this, like nobody, like, and then you had Brian Michael Bendis, who destroyed Superman. Like Bendis took that title from a book. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen Comics by Perch, but he did a breakdown of the Bendis Superman run. 78% drop from 100,000 to 30,000 in sales on his last book. They just gave him Justice League.
Yeah,
that just leans back on how little they care about the printed books and how they have certain favorites that they're going to keep giving stuff to regardless. There's a whole list of people that keep getting, not a whole list, but there's a very short list of people that keep getting the same better and better assignments, even though their books are selling less and less.
It just reminds me of the military where you fucking fail up. You just fail. Like nobody wants to do the freaking out. Like you get a stupid lieutenant that gets your entire mission lost, and everyone gets screwed over. And so what happens? That guy gets promoted to captain, so he doesn't have to freaking lead anyone ever again. And then he makes a mess up as captain. He gets promoted to major or lieutenant colonel. It just keeps going up the chain. Just get him the fuck away from people.
Yeah.
But the problem is in comics, you put him on Superman, and now you're putting him on Justice League.
Yeah, you couldn't handle one character. We'll give him 15. Randy, for you, and this is from Big Bird.
Big Bird.
Big Bird says is that so when you say that comics can't be used as a tool of propaganda, are you?
I didn't say that.
No. I think he's saying about all of us. But,
okay.
We have to understand that Captain America was created to be a propaganda tool. And the thing is, just like we can't tell people what to not enjoy, we can't tell people what to enjoy. So I that's what he said. That's the comment from Big Bird. Big Bird, here's the thing. We're not telling people what to do. If you like the current comics, that's great. That's terrific. Please buy them. It, I will admit there are some new comics that I got that I think are pretty cool. There are some Marvel books that I've read. I'm like, that wasn't a bad story. I like that. Same with DC. You can't. It's like you can't make. We're not making someone's choice. We're not telling you can't have these comics. We're not saying that. They're available. You can buy them if you want to. You can't tell somebody what they can and can't eat, or they can and can't consume. We're not doing that. You can consume it. I don't like it, and you can't tell me to like it if I don't. Because I mean,
this comes back to what I said earlier about the difference between inclusion and exclusion.
Mm-hmm.
You can include, you can have all sorts of female-oriented books. Yes, please do that. Yes, let's get some female writers out there with a female perspective and get more female sequential artists out there doing a lot more personal work. But when you go to great lengths to completely eliminate any positive male role models in your company, there's a problem. There's a big problem. You can't replace all of your Tony Starks with a girl who steals his armor and expect anything good to come out of it. Doesn't happen. And Big Bird, your point about Captain America is slightly wrong, because the big thing about Captain America, the reason Captain America was created was sales. Sold million or close to 1 million copies when he first came out. Him hitting Hitler on the cover of #1 was propaganda at the time, because there was a very solid pro-Hitler movement in the States that a lot of the Jewish people, especially Jack and Joe Simon and Martin Goodman, who were in charge of Marvel at the time, were against. So they thought it was a great thing having Captain America smack Hitler. Not everybody enjoyed that. The book was incredibly controversial, a lot more than a lot of people realized when it first came out. In fact, Jack Kirby had threats on his well-being, that being the typical Brooklyn tough guy. He's like, yeah, buddy, meet me right out in front of the building. I'll be there. I'll be waiting for you. Come on, do it. That book sold a lot. What you're looking at now with Marvel are like what Mike said, constantly dwindling sales on product that they're pushing as propaganda, that they're putting out there to the market, that are constantly dropping, and they don't care. They don't care about the numbers anymore, because they're right there on the precipice of not printing books at all. And the bigger people up in the executive offices don't care what they put out on the books. They just want to make sure there's a certain amount of Superman exposure out there. So this guy supposedly has a reputation. We'll let him write the book, even though it goes down. Well, this guy has a certain reputation, so we'll take him off of that book and we'll put him on the team book, which again will probably follow the same thing and go down. The nepotism up at the offices has never been greater. And that's the way it's always worked. It's worked that way since people have wanted to work in the industry. Roy Thomas was very lucky to get a job up there at the Marvel offices because he was a letter writer. Same thing with Marie Severin. If you go back and look at early Marvel history, they gave these people work. Marie got in because John, her brother, was drawing comics at the time and did Westerns incredibly well. And even she was working, just at the offices and doing bullpen work. They didn't even recognize her talent until they couldn't find anybody up there at the offices to do an illustration for Esquire magazine, which you'd have thought the comic guys would have jumped at in the first place because of the level of exposure. But she was at the offices. She volunteered to do it. She did the work. And Martin says, hey, she can draw. Why don't you give her some work? That's off topic, but the whole thing about propaganda is at the right time. World War II, you saw all of this propaganda pop out because that's what fed the troops. The troops didn't have a smartphone to carry with them or YouTube to lean on. And getting a comic to them reminded them not just what they were fighting for, but gave them a taste of home and the fact that they can take that comic book, roll it up in their back pocket, or toss it into their backpack and not have it take up a lot of room. And then the next time that they have to sit for 3 hours waiting for troops to be readjusted or days, they can reach in and pull out that comic or trade it amongst their fellow troopers. That's why comics were so successful back during World War II. but you really have to look at the level of propaganda that's out there right now in the mainstream far outweighs the entertainment value. And that was the key back in the old days, where you had writers who wrote and wrote well and sold millions and millions of copies, as these people knew how to make statements, but they also knew how to entertain. And that's a big problem with modern comics today, is you're not getting a lot of entertainers up there. You're getting a lot of people who like soapboxes, and they ought to have YouTube channels like we have, so that they can jump up on that soapbox and point their finger at the camera and do whatever they need to do, instead of trying to do comics. They're trying, and they're not trying very well. That's obvious from the constantly dropping sales.
I want to piggyback off of Randy's thing about Cap. Cap has always been a political book. This is true. However, you also have to look at, like, Captain America #1 came out in 1940. We were not at war with Germany at the time. Hitler was just declared Times Man of the Year in 1939. Okay.
Well, that's what I was saying. He was it was such a controversial cover that it attracted a lot of attention.
100%. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby had to have police details to protect them. Like, this was a whole thing that did stir things. But me personally, based off of what I have read, I don't think that it was so much propaganda, so much as Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, and Martin Goodman taking first shots in a war that they were ready to fight.
Well, they did a patriotic character, but also by that time, Pep Comics #1 had come out with the Shield. That was by MJ, whatever, turned into Archie anyway. Patriotic comics were suddenly proven to be profitable. So of course, you need a patriotic character. Let's do Captain America. You need him hitting somebody evil. Let's have him hitting Hitler.
Yeah, well, and there was that aspect, but like, even when you look at Steve Rogers' design, like, he is the Aryan super soldier. He is embodied of everything that Hitler believed to be the perfect person, and he's put in an American flag and he's beating the crap out of the, like. I personally think that it went well beyond propaganda and more earnest. Like, we aren't going to take this lying down.
Well, I don't think propaganda was their primary motivation. I think it was a nice hook. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying, though, is these modern creators, propaganda is the primary goal. It is how can we bring our political views to the audience. Like I want people to agree with what I have to say. That's all that matters. Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, Martin Goodman, when it came down to Captain America, it was far more than just, oh, well, everyone should see things the way that I do. This was their declaration of war. And it came 5 years early. 2 years early, rather, 1942. I got the dates mixed up.
Well, actually, it came out about 6 months before Pearl Harbor happened, but that's history.
Was it 1941? I thought it was 40. No. But either point
Wonder
that
Woman literally come out 1 month before Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Onto the stands, though. Sensation One's dated for January. They used to post date their comics a couple of months in advance, so they'd sit on the stands longer.
Yeah, but point is that I just that's something that always has rubbed me the wrong way, because I don't like when people try to take the whole Captain America was this, Superman had these political books back in World War II, because as you said, Randy, that was all due to supporting a war effort, and it's different.
Where they stand up and say comics have always been propaganda. No, comics have always been entertainment. Sometimes they have political views. They started off as editorial cartoons with political views, but they turned into comics. You got your adventure strips out there and your comedy strips out there because they figured out that it was that form, sequential art, it could be used as entertainment and to generate money. That was the big key, as opposed to get a point of view across. They can get a point of view across any old way, but like I said, if they do it humorously or with a taste of adventure, it hit on a higher level and a more entertainment level. So comic history is real fascinating to
It
me
is.
because you have a whole period there, and it's such an interesting tapestry of interconnecting parts. But you had people out there in the 50s that realized when the troops came home in the mid to late 40s, when the troops were home, the comics started aging and started growing up. And you had a whole level of people out there that put the kibosh on it really quick because they were afraid you're corrupting kids' minds and all of this, even though they didn't really have any true scientific proof to back any of that up. It was such an easy target for them to point at and go, oh, that's because these comics are all propaganda and they're spoiling the kids' heads. And that's not what was happening. The Crime Does Not Pay and the EC horror titles were selling like wildfire because the older audience was picking them up and hunting them down and actually starting fandom as we know it back during that period before the Comic Code Authority kicked in, because this was the same group of people that used to read the pulp magazines that were slowly dying out at that point too, because people didn't have time to sit there every week and pick up the latest pulp magazine and sit and read an entire novel of their favorite character when they could pick up a comic book and read it in 15, 20 minutes. So it's an interesting evolution anyway. And comics have never been totally propaganda. They figured out the power of it. Lee figured out once he started bringing in dramatic elements into Marvel that, yes, you can start using it to make statements. And in fact, that's how the Code Authority went away, was because they wanted to make drug abuse statements, both them and DC. And the Code Authority wouldn't allow that to happen because you couldn't have any drug use in your books. And they said, well, the code's outdated. We need to do this anyway. And they went ahead and dropped the seal off of the books and started printing them. Very cutting edge for the time. Nowadays, these stories are real docile. If you sit there and you read and go, well, of course, Harry Osborn trips out on dope and has a bad trip. That's terrible. Or Speedy is a heroin addict. Oh, that's just the next issue of Green Arrow anymore.
I tracked down that issue, Spider-Man 89, I think, and I have it signed by Stan Lee. I got it signed by him at Awesome Con, his last appearance. I'll have to bring that up.
I can't believe that there's so many. Well, again, the same 5 people on the internet are really calling for like a return of the Comics Code Authority, or a variation of it. That it's like, oh, you have to spell it out for people. Well, it's like you can't have nuance in stories. Yeah. It's like, oh, if you're an author and you create a vile person because you endorse that behavior, and
that comes from the people's misunderstanding of what comics are. That's why we keep saying get an education, because they still think comics are for kids and comics are malleable to a young, impressionable youth. And that's not what's happened. It's turned in sequential art has turned into an art form. And for the most part, except for some of the crap that's coming out of that mainstream, I wouldn't consider much to do art. Yes, it is. But that's off subject. But the big thing that these people want to whine and say we need to have the Code Authority brought back. There are if comics were accessible and were out there and certain comics were aimed at certain audiences, yes, there should be a code of ethics, basic code of ethics that they follow. That's not the case here. We're in a direct market where your main reader is old enough to be able to make mature judgments on their own, and they're not that pliable by the material that they get. In fact, they reject a lot of that soapboxing, which is why those sales keep dropping. We need to get comics back to an entertainment level. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, because the mainstream is learning very quickly that they're drop, as the crowdfunding people are out there gaining in sales, because they're doing an entertainment product where the mainstream just wants to soapbox. So, then what I find real interesting now, since I see that Varian is off, the next 3 shows coming out of CW that are coming up next year are all products of characters that have been around for less than a year. That's going to be real fascinating to see how that runs, because
with the exception of Superman and Lois, yeah.
No. That's after this. After Superman and Lois, that's going to be its own can of worms and wonderful.
More than likely, yes.
But the next 3 shows, Niobe, Wonder Girl, and there's another one coming up that are all out of characters that DC has created on the fly. I think 2 of them are Bendis characters that they're like going, oh, this is a great idea. We're going to do a TV show, and the comic's been out for less than a year. Let's see how that flies. I'll be real interested to watch those.
Well, I mean,
personally
in the end,
don't think Niobe's going to come out because it's being made by Ava DuVernay, who was supposed to do a New Gods movie, and well, that was announced 5 years ago. So,
well, we keep hoping. I keep the data celebrates the day when that movie project has officially been put into turnaround. I don't think the movie's going to come out, to tell you the truth. But
I don't either. But that's why I don't think Naomi's going to come out either.
Oh no, that's CW. That's a whole different can of worms. When they announced that Black Adam was going to be done, I'm like, what are you, idiots? And that seems to be on the fast track and being filmed and all of that.
You know, that Naomi comic. The problem is when you got a comic that new, what ends up happening is that, in my opinion, when you transfer it to a new medium, that medium tends to outpace the source material.
It'll be like the Spawn cartoon show on HBO.
Well, but I
Phenomenal.
think that it's because it was created specifically to make that jump to the other medium. Like the comic book was just to justify its creation, but the goal was always to put it as a TV show.
You know,
Vagrant Queen quickly comes to mind.
Yeah. You've seen studios do that. They say, we got this movie we're working on. Hey, let's put a comic book out so we can claim that it's a comic book movie.
Right. Yeah.
Get that extra money.
Randy, did
That's
you
why
hear that?
It'll be real interesting to see how that goes.
Did you hear that Mags actually like followed the lead actress of Vagrant Queen on like Twitter and like made a comment, and she had no idea who Mags was?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because that's how separated the mediums are.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I find like super fun because it's like, you know, like if Todd McFarlane like hit up Keith David from Spawn, Keith David would know who Todd McFarlane is.
Yeah.
Well, one of the cool things I thought with the HBO Spawn cartoon is they passed Spawn within like a couple of episodes. Yeah. Because in my opinion, Spawn was just constantly sitting there spinning their wheels as far as anything close to a plot goes. And here you got to have more content to keep people's interest when you're doing an animated cartoon. So the Spawn cartoon to me was awesome to look at when I couldn't get past like issue 14 of the actual comic because it was the same thing over and over and over again.
The Walking Dead is the same. The Walking Dead is, you know, it outpaced the source material pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, it would have over time if Kirkman hadn't stopped it, but they were still a little bit ahead of the show.
Yeah.
By the time Kirkman stopped it. The thing about Walking Dead, though, that's different from Spawn is Walking Dead's a soap opera. So you can have characters wandering in and out and telling story arcs and doing some real interesting things. Why he stopped the book, I'll never know. Who can say what was in his head?
Tired.
Anyway,
yeah, probably. Yeah.
More decisions have been made from people being tired. More bad decisions.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. You know,
lately, but the idea of Walking Dead could have kept going, and I'm sure AMC is going to do more than milk that puppy dry, because that's the only thing that they really have going for them.
Yeah, they've also they're trying to go back and do prequel series of Breaking Bad characters. Now I was like, no. But listen, Breaking Bad, other than Better Call Saul, I don't know if Breaking Bad has put out anything.
Well,
like that movie, that El Camino movie they did, the tie up Jesse storyline.
Yeah, I heard it.
The thing with Better,
that's when characters become product. That now it's like, it's like, oh, we have to keep the product going, not necessarily the storyline. That the storyline's irrelevant. How do we keep the product in the minds of everybody?
The thing with Better Call Saul that had it last as long as it did is that the character just happened to be in Breaking Bad, but that show was very much on its own. It's very much Odenkirk's show with maybe some Breaking Bad characters coming in and out of it. Breaking Bad was the phenomenon that it was because Gillian, I believe Gilligan was a writer, and he sat there and he wrote that property, and that the arc that those characters had was so fascinating and so well done. And to me, I thought it was incredible, the show in general, because I had a real rough time watching the show for the first couple of seasons because the guy was such a loser. And you're like going, oh, can this guy lose anymore? Oh, I guess he can. Why am I watching this show? I don't want to watch this thing if you're going to get depressed. And then second or third season, he starts winning. And then he starts winning more, and he starts really winning. And then it gets to the point where he's, that I think I've told you, I've always wanted to do that with Luke Cage.
Yeah.
And have him go and learn business acumen and then become the ultimate big conglomerate executive corporate head and be bored out of his freaking mind because he got what he wanted.
I think that with especially with that show, that was they tried to say. I remember they said, "Well, we wanted to have a show where you start to root for the bad guy," and I'm like, from a certain point, Walter still wasn't the bad guy, in my opinion. I don't care. I still find myself rooting for Walter and saying he's not dead. He's not dead. Sorry, spoiler alert, but he's not dead.
The entire system was the bad guy. That was the thing.
Right. Yeah.
And the characters were playing within that system, and they lost and then figured the system out and then started winning and then beating and then destroying and then decimating. And then it killed them in the process. Yeah. That was the whole point of the show.
Yeah. Imperium says, I would say 90% of people who went to see Blade, the Vampire Slayer, had no idea it was a comic.
Probably, yeah.
Cater is Kingpin for Control.
Everybody writing fanfic in the chat.
wanted to say from Indie Vault Radio, exactly. And me and Odin had to talk about this. Me and Michael Odin had to talk about this very recently. Very quick conversation. We mentioned triggering, and this is about that comment earlier in the show with the Batman pictures. Exactly when does the triggering become ridiculous? And this is from Alan again. And when does the triggering become ridiculous? And how far up do I have to warn people that they may find offensive situations in my content?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll go. Well, okay. First off, people's triggers are real. I don't want to diminish anyone's trauma. But the thing is that there really comes a point where your trauma is not my problem. If you have trauma, you need to take care of that. But me doing whatever it is I'm doing, I'm not your therapist. So there's certain things that, okay, I'll warn you about. It's like, does this, what kind of violence is in my book? What kind of, it's like, is there a rape in there? It's like, did the dog die? I mean, it's like, there's certain things that collectively as a society we've agreed is upsetting. And it's polite, and I think it's just polite to tell you, well, if especially if you ask, this is kind of where my story goes, but it's up to you if you want to continue. I'm just giving you a heads up, but that's where it goes. I think that the second you start applying, like, can you warn me if your book has golden retrievers in it, because I was attacked by a golden retriever when I was a child. Can you tell me if it has pomegranates in it, because pomegranates look like gore and I have an issue with seeing gore. I have that. What was that the phobia that you had mentioned on another show?
Trypophobia, yeah.
Right, yeah. That it's like, do you use certain patterns? Because I get, there comes a point that I can't apply everything. You know, I'm not going to sit here and go through my work and say, well, you know, somebody might not like this, somebody might not like that. Maybe the way that I ink might upset people or something, or the way this pose is done. And it's like, there just comes a point where it's like, look, aside from certain, like I said, agreed upon topics, after that, it's on you to figure out, to do your research and figure out, you know, what your issues are and take care of that.
What do pomegranates look like?
Not just that, but it's upon you to call that out also.
Right,
If somebody
yeah.
comes up and it's triggered by such and such, they need to be pointed at and going, look, that's on you. You're a weirdo.
Right. Yeah,
You're a weirdo.
exactly. It's like, oh, I'm sorry if my book did that to you.
Yeah.
But I'm not, you know, but I suggest you not buy it anymore then.
There was a problem in comics, not
Right.
you know, 10, 15 so years ago or so, that somebody, Gail Simone, pointed out, look, too many of these heroes' girlfriends are turning into a plot device, being killed and stuffed into refrigerators.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Sure.
Well, yes, there's a problem. That
Right.
needs to stop. We need to get better to do that. But you know, the last thing that Varian brought up this morning, that's a weirdo problem. The
Right.
people need to be pointed at and going, you're being stupid. Stop
yeah.
being stupid. That's a weirdo
You know, it's like-
problem, and it's your problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
I'm gonna point
You know,
out that
it's like the whole thing is like, oh,
TVMA
I don't like boob armor. It's like, okay, good for you. Then, you know, then
Don't
avoid
read-
it then. You know?
like,
Yeah, exactly.
There are a lot of choices,
and
you guys. You know, you have
Another
the
good
opportunity
example
to
of
go
this
to walk
is
away.
on television with flashing red lights.
Right, yeah.
Because it was triggering people with epileptic fits. It was actually causing harm. So now more people are aware of that, and they either have a warning or they've stopped doing that kind of thing because they don't want to cause harm. But that's not because, you know, if there was only 3 people going, oh, I have an adverse effect to your blinking lights, they needed to be pointed at and going, don't watch the thing, dude. It's
Right.
Too bad.
2 people. But when you're hurting a large portion of the populace, or if it's definitely become a trope, like with the girls being stuffed in refrigerators, which I guess it happened 3 or 4 times in a row, that it needed to be addressed and pointed at and go, look, you know, learn to write. You know, you can do a better plot device than this.
I mean,
Learn. Yeah, you
Real
can grow up.
Before you move on, Daphne, you said pomegranates look like what?
gore. Like gore.
I don't see
No.
it.
Not that good.
I don't see it.
I'm triggered.
You've just triggered me. Stop doing that.
to chime in on
but for real,
I do,
though. It's
I
like,
do think I recall the conversation that Varian was talking about, in which I had written a script and had it reviewed by some people, and it caused a PTSD trigger.
right. No, that's a real thing. And it's like, and I really
so,
resent how
like,
people
I feel
using the word. Yeah.
I feel Daphne hit the nail on the head. If you have something with these intense graphic moments that you know contains these things that universally as a society we're like, this is a bit rough, then you should have a disclaimer in your marketing. You should let people know before they have a chance to open the books. Like, hey, we have like this thing is going to have some like pretty tough stuff in here. So if that's not your book of if that's not your cup of tea, you need to walk away. But then
And also, you don't even need to be specific about it. Like all I have to do is say, well, my Tall Tales is like Lord of the Rings, and you get a certain, you know, idea as to what it contains. If I told you Tall Tales was like Game of Thrones, you get a different idea.
At least you hope they do. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It just goes.
You know.
I like to say that my comics are you know, well, what can I, especially with Catharsis, they're like well, what's this book about? I told people, well, a guy told me, he says, oh, I like your book, man. It's like The Punisher meets Breaking Bad. And I was like, I'll take that. But now I'm like, people ask me, what's your comic book about? I say, well, do you like Red Tube? And they generally, but the other thing is this. Here's the thing.
That's quite the pitch, Varian.
Yeah, do you like Red Tube? Here's the thing. I think I agree. We should put warnings and some, you know, hey, be careful. You know, you're gonna pick up this book. It may cause an issue. But I also think that hate to say this, I'm gonna be the bad guy right around Christmas too.
You're always a bad guy.
you have to understand that there are certain times where, for instance, okay, I don't like werewolves. Okay.
Oh, then my next story, you can't read my
yeah,
next story.
now, I make a joke why not. Like, I'm trying to get something that actually triggers me. It didn't. I mean, I don't think anything. But okay. I'll give you a perfect example. Yeah, Lola says warnings are for babies. Okay, true story. A couple years ago, back in me and Lola lost a child due to placental abruption. We watched Law and Order every night. We watched maybe 3 or 4 episodes. Well, they had an episode where and Robin Williams played the character where his wife had placental abruption and the baby and his wife died. Now that could have happened to my wife because she did not want to have these operations. She was like, nope, let's hold it off. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. That episode had me feel a particular type of way. And a matter of fact, here's the thing. I'm happy I watched that episode because in a way it validated a lot of what I felt at that time, and what the ways I still felt, the anger at the doctors, the anger at the hospital, the anger at society afterwards. It validated that, and it let me know that, hey, there is somebody else out there. Even though, I mean, I know this is an imaginary character, but someone wrote this, and it's possible that person who wrote this knows what I went through. And so I don't know, it's because I got a healthy brain, but I would be hurt if I found out that someone in the creative process would have walked into that room with that script and said, hey, I just read your new script for the new episode, and we're not filming this. And so I'm wondering, if you're easily triggered, should you remove yourself from the creative process? Like, can I get mad at Daphne for presenting me with, like, let's say Daphne is foolish enough to hire me as her editor or her proofreader or something, like, you know, like even her color.
I asked you to review, you know, to read my first issue, you know,
which
review before my
she
Kickstarter.
She didn't, by the way. She let Meredith do that. I see how it is. Women stick together. See, I see how the shit goes. Anyway,
well, you know, I want to respect your tastes. You know, I don't want
toxic femininity.
I don't want to give you something I think that maybe you wouldn't be interested in. You know,
but if let's say you were foolish enough to let me into the creative process of Ego Works, and I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my goodness, you have a character that loses a child.
Right. Okay.
Do I get a chance to come and complain to you? Is that okay? Or do you think I should remove myself from the character?
You can mention it. To tell you the truth, it's like I probably do have stuff in my book that people could potentially complain about. And it's like, you know, fair enough. I mean, this is an issue for you. That's fine. But it's not changing my story.
You have dogs and cats living together.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like
it's terrible.
Randy, did you have anybody ever come to you in the entire time of Arrow and say, hey, this new comic, we can't do it because it's upsetting to me or anything like that? Like there was involved in the creative process, not a fan.
We've had little picky points like on Tales from the Aniverse that we just point at and go, you're a weirdo. That's not what this is.
I think I know
what this is about. Just go on, you know. If you think in that direction, well,
right,
that's like what Daphne said. It's on you. It's not on me. Get away from me. You know.
I mean, as a creator, I think that we have a good idea who our target audience is. Mm-hmm. And if I want to put a little disclaimer in my book saying, you know, my book might be PG-13. I think that's a good idea to warn parents so that they're not giving it to their 7-year-old, perhaps. But then again, as a creator, if I'm writing books and I'm pitching them to certain publishers, do your research. What do they expect from their creators? What are their guidelines? What is it that they publish? And really do your research before you submit your stuff to some, you know, I mean, I wouldn't want to submit my, you know, if I had a zombie book or a horror book, I wouldn't submit that to Scoot.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
A lot of the problems, a lot of the triggering that you're going to see pop up anyway are from people that don't understand what you're doing don't want to understand what they're doing. They just want to be triggered. They're never going to spend any money on your stuff.
Right.
The people that are complaining about the animated cartoons that you pulled up, they don't know what those cartoons are about. They've just seen somebody do this, and obviously they want to be triggered by it, so they're complaining. They don't care that both of those characters are out trying to grasp for a ledge. They're afraid they're going to grab their boobies.
That's
their problem.
That is such a stretch. It's not even funny.
And it's not like they'll ever even watch the cartoon.
Yeah, I don't even think that they were actually triggered by it. I think that this is just people confusing consumerism for activism and thinking that they're changing the world by complaining about a scene.
Well, yeah. I also think there's especially thanks to social media, there's a large amount of attention whoring out there.
Yeah, really. That they
people
just
will pay attention to me if I'm triggered. Yeah.
And it's like, you did nothing, you freak.
Yeah.
By the way, the people who are triggered by talking animals, when that eventually becomes a rule, it'll be known as the laid versus. They'll refer to it as laid versus the people.
Yeah, no, for real. It's like, no, I've met those people, but I've met those people who it's like, no, and usually it's like religious in nature too. Mm-hmm. Where it's like like Winnie the Pooh offends them because animals shouldn't be talking, and it's like, it's like, okay, whatever.
There are talking animals in the Bible.
I think that might be the relation, honestly.
I know there was a lady. My mother is pretty religious, and there was a lady at a convention, and she walked up to us. We had this sign we had printed, and it said, Joss Whedon is my master now. It was in a Star Wars font, but it was like a Firefly poster. Mm-hmm. And she looks at it and she's like, "Oh, I love this. I'm a Firefly fan. The only thing I don't like is the fact that it says master on it, because my master is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior." And she goes off on a whole like 15-minute tangent.
Yeah.
And my mother's like, "What's wrong with that nutball?"
Well, like,
no one was asking her for a testimony. No one. And yet she felt compelled to give it loudly in front of my table. It's like, so you're not going to buy it?
Look, I was calling 311 just to get information on how to get rid of a tree. And I had to listen to a 15-minute, what's the word? Proselytization or something. This woman just went on this whole, come to Jesus the thing, over the phone. And it's like, I'm like going, lady, I'm just trying to get rid of a tree.
It's like, need to be stopped and told that, lady, I'm just trying to get rid of a tree.
You should have fired up a chainsaw.
I know that this is important to some people, and I don't want to just be rude, so it's like, I just thanked her for her concern for my soul, and I got the information I wanted and moved on.
Make sure whenever that happens again, as you're leaving, you tell them to have a blessed day.
I do actually. Yes, I do.
Blessed be. Have a good day.
Now, Michael, you mentioned earlier. I caught the tail end of it. You said that a script of yours it triggered some PTSD. How do you feel as a creator? Do you feel bad? But do you feel worse if it's a member of your creative team or if it's a member of someone who read the book? What do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel worse then?
So this book hasn't been released. So like it was somebody that was looking at it. I had submitted it to a publishing company, and it was one of the people that was looking at it. And I do know that person, and I felt terrible because that wasn't my intent. My intent was to use this moment in time for a character motivation. And I felt terrible that I had hurt that person in that way, and that it had triggered something from them. Mm-hmm. But like at the same time, it's like it's one of those things where I don't know if I had elicited that reaction from just a normal consumer and they came back and was mad at me, I'd feel bad, but I don't think I'd feel like nearly to that extent. Because at the end of the day, as Daphne said, if I had put this out there in the market and I had put a disclaimer about what to expect from this book, and you opened this book and you expected anything different than what I had marketed it as, that is your decision. You chose to read that book at that point. When it came down to what happened with that script, I had submitted it to review to a publishing company. The person that was reading it in question didn't know necessarily what I was going for outside of the little pitch that I had sent. That's on me. Because if I had told them that, maybe that person would have been like, hey, I can't look at this. Let's move it to another person. And we could have worked from there. But the fact of the matter is that that's where it fell on my responsibility for not properly conveying what to expect to and the script to the people that were reviewing. Mm-hmm. If it were a different situation where it hit the consumer market, and I had marketed it that images like this were going to happen.
Yeah.
That is the consumer's own damn fault. They made a choice. They opened the book. They read it anyway. They got a PTSD flashback. Does that still suck? Of course. I'm not a freaking monster. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it sucks to be you. But at the end of the day, that was also your decision. You're a grown fucking adult. You knew what was going to be in this book, and you read it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I think for me, though, like my concern is what you said something there that for me is and again, I'm an asshole. I don't want to look at this script because it's going to cause me an issue. If I'm in a leadership position, if I'm in that position where I'm accepting scripts, I can't feel that way. I have to leave all that BS at the door when I come into a job. And that's what we keep having in not just this industry, but these gatekeepers who say, nope, I'm not looking at this. As a matter of fact, it's going in the circular file because it's not getting past me because I don't like what it says in it. And we're not talking about something like as racism. I'm sure whatever's in your script, Michael, I know that you're not you're not mentally unsound, despite the fact that you spent many years in the military. They should have broken you.
But I appreciate total confidence.
Yeah, it should have broken you. But no, but it Lord knows it did me in military school. It was 4 years of just. But here's the thing. I know that, you know, yeah, the bad guys take pleasure in doing crime. The writer isn't, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, you're writing a story.
Yeah. So for someone
at the end of the day, the bad guy gets stopped, doesn't he? Like that's hopefully. The whole point is to create the bad guy so that the ultimate good can take him down. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what we love seeing. Except when people get tired and drop. Never mind. So I keep remembering not to bring that up. So I just think that we have to move ourselves if we feel like instead of removing the script, maybe remove yourself. Maybe this isn't the job for you,
right?
Because you have some PTSD. I'm not saying you don't have the right to earn money. I'm just saying you may have to go off and do some more soul searching. A little bit more work on yourself before you can hop into an industry where creative freedom is out there. Because we just got a letter from some people who can't. I'm losing words here. From the people who can't. They can't put out content about how they feel, whether it's idealistically, politically. Yeah, they can't. They're in jail for it. How soon? I mean,
you're right. Okay, because I'm thinking technically Shelby was doing the same thing yesterday, but you were talking about legit political prisoners.
Yeah. We got a letter from some political prisoners who can't get their, workout, and they're now in prison for it. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Of course, no one's knocking down Michael's door to drag him to the, local.
No, but you know what? But remember, they almost did that to Mike Diana.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that could have been. Well, I mean, the fact that in the end he moved to New York and New York made the decision to not waste their time enforcing what Florida was trying to do ended the conversation. So it's not like that there was like this. I mean, it still created a precedent, but the precedent kind of ended also.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a scary documentary to tell
Yeah.
you the truth. That's
Uh,
a horror film as far as I'm concerned.
Meredith, if you want to say something, I seen you unmuted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking to what we were just talking about, personal responsibility. There are so many people who just want to project their shit onto other people,
Yeah, really.
and not take any personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And
Their
so
bill is triggering.
again,
Yeah.
when
Oh,
it
now
comes
it's
to-
your problem. Now it's my problem to take care of your
Right.
BS. Yeah.
And it's like, it's not my problem to take care of your BS. It's my
Yeah.
problem to take care of my BS.
Yeah.
And and whatever I share out there is on you. If I'm marketing it a certain way, if I am telling you, if I'm putting warnings on here and you do it anyway, to what Michael was saying, that's not my fault.
Right.
But again, to what Varian was saying, when you're in a position of responsibility, when you have to look at these things again, if you're in a publishing house that accepts this kind of work, that's part of the job.
Yeah.
But you're aside, or you're not in the right position.
Right.
I agree with Meredith wholeheartedly on that last statement. That should not be a position that you're in.
Right. Exactly.
But if that would have happened to me, if somebody come back and said, dude, you triggered my PTSD, I'd say, dude, I'm sorry that it did that, but it gives you something now to discuss with your therapist, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like me working at a Baskin Robbins and refusing to sell ice cream.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't do
Right.
this,
Or
but
no,
I'm
I'm not
working
going to
here.
serve this to you because I think you're fat and unhealthy.
You
What?
know, right? Yeah, it's like
I don't want to belittle his affliction, but it's
Right.
not really my problem. It's his.
right,
Obviously,
exactly.
it's
like,
something he needs to address. And again, if he takes on material, or she takes on material that's like that, he probably gets triggered real often at work.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
I mean, it's a weird world we live in. I think that we need to start calling that type of stuff out when we see it. Hey, you're in a position of power. You're telling me, because in the other words, if in any other way, it's gatekeeping.
Yeah,
if you look at it that way. I mean, just the fact that you don't know that they put it at the bottom of the trash can. Yeah, we gave it to someone else to review. Okay,
and that's pretty rough job for a guy who works at Scoot.
What's that?
No, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Are we taking hot shots at somebody?
Yeah, your kid's book triggered. Never mind. That was bad, and I apologize.
Randy's gonna get every label to hate us. It's like, now, I will say this: I will not. Like, I remember I told the story. I'll do it very quickly. I did a script for a comic, and I submitted it. And and again, it's my company, and the person that got the script said, "I don't feel comfortable drawing this." Yeah. Now, I felt that was okay, but I remember telling that person later. I said, "No, I understand what you're saying," and I told them, I said, "Look, as an artist, you're gonna come up against a lot of scripts you're not going to want to draw if this is a problem, because it didn't have anything in there that was graphic. It was graphic, but it wasn't like."
I was going to say, Varian, you told me what this script was.
Yeah.
It was graphic.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
There was no scenes of like. There was no scene. There was. It probably wouldn't have had to, be wrapped up and put up, in a like. In a poly bag, and kids don't look at this. I think it was probably, the way I wrote it to be depicted was probably 16 and up, 17 and up. And it definitely, I mean, I just seen a scene from Avengers number 78 where Ant-Man is shrunk down and Janet's in the bed like, yes. And she looks up and he's coming up between her boobs and he's covered in, it's, and I'm like, well, shit. That didn't come with a warning at all. But the thing is,
and again, that's an example of very bad editorship.
Well,
Wait a minute, that was an actual issue? That wasn't like some fan art or something?
No, that was from a legit issue. I thought that it was from Ultimates because it looks just like Ultimate Hank and Janet, but it's actually from one of their main continuity runs too. I was like, what?
Okay.
There could be a whole book on really bad Marvel editing misjudgments. And I'm very serious on that. Stuff that you look back on, especially now, and you go, what the hell were you thinking?
Well, I appreciate that.
Who the hell approved this shit?
I appreciate the artist that I dealt with telling me, look, man, I don't feel comfortable drawing this. And
Yeah.
And that was fine. Now, what he did, and he told me that it was a little too dark for me, and I don't feel comfortable. I can respect that. I can respect that because he didn't come to me and say, take all this out and I'll draw it.
Yeah.
He respected my writing. I respected his position, and we were able to move forward. He ultimately did do a book for me outside of that one. And that's fine. But I did tell him, I said, look, man, it's gonna be hard to draw comics for you for like, the next
depending on what his lines are, sure.
That's practically calling Randy, he messed up.
Yeah.
He should have
it's a bad spam. I've been bombarded with spam calls the last 2 or 3 days.
Oh,
it's
did
ridiculous.
your car warranty expire again?
No, they never want to talk to me because I pick up the phone, go, hello. And then they just hang up.
What she dribble stuff to me?
That's what I was saying.
No, Imperium, no. She didn't do that. He voluntarily stuffed himself.
He said your turn, and she was like,
oh boy.
Michelle Gibbons says, Merry Christmas, Randy.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Michelle. Thanks.
Yeah, so guys, we've reached our 2-hour mark. It's time to get out of here.
Stuart Kerr says, remind me of Guy Davis. Bonk the world graffiti. Yeah.
Where can we find you, Mr. Oden?
You can find me on Twitter at Elysian Fields _0. You can find me on Facebook with the 9 Realms Facebook page. We have our Indiegogo, which is in demand, and we'll be closing that up. January 1st is when I'm closing out the in demand. We just added the statues, so be sure you check out our Facebook page to see the badass trailer that Dreaded Dinosaur Man Eric Hodson put together for us. It's awesome. And then we have the Kickstarter going, and Daphne did this beautiful fan art of Achilles, and that may or may not be appearing in the book. So please come check us and back us on whichever platform you prefer. And we have awesome books coming your way.
Daphne drawing a human is rare.
No, it really is. But I just, it's just like I need to practice people. Who could I draw?
You did
a tremendous job. Her Achilles looks phenomenal. I love it.
I was trying to get that Brad Pitt vibe kind of going, and
Daphne, you did a real cool picture of Lola. And Blue Line. Did you ever finish that?
No, but I can if you want.
Yeah.
The official sticker of
put it on Geekgasm stickers. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll link that in. Sure.
I'm sorry. Did you finish? Is that everywhere they can find you?
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think I did everything.
All right, Daphne, we were talking you up. You can go next.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So if you're into Lord of the Rings style fantasy comics, go to egoworks.com, EGOWORKS.com, and talltalesonline.com with your not religiously sanctioned talking animals, where you can read both my comics for free online and sign up to get regular updates about my upcoming Kickstarter, especially the one for Ego Raven, which starts January 4th, 2021. And also, if you're into art tutorials, demos, and the occasional rant and commentary that Varian wants me to do more of, you can find me on YouTube at Daphne Lage, Lage art.
And now the newest writer whose comic is one half Spartacus, one half Deadwood. Meredith. I'm just kidding. No. Those are two. Those TV shows have the most like awkwardly cut in sex scenes ever.
So the bottom half is Spartacus. The top half is Deadwood.
Yeah. 1 minute you're sitting there watching, next minute someone's getting reamed. You're like, whoa, pause. I can't watch this before noon.
Why?
It's like watching Watchmen in the theater. You're constantly going, is it? Here comes. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Where can they find you at?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I basically centralized all of my social media links and where you can find me at Linktree. So if you go to streamyard.ee/MEREJ99. You will be able to find all of my social media links, where I podcast, where I blog, and I believe my Kickstarter's up there too. That is launching on the 29th. I'm getting ready to finish up some of the tweaks to the campaign, and so that is the Compendium of Dread. That is the prose version of what you're going to see a lot of as long as that gets scripted and we get the artwork for it, and that's what the crowdfund is for. So I'm really looking forward to that. You get to see the prose, and then you get to see the transition of scripting and comic books, and the dyeing is going to be coming out on Terraform's Continuum, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, I mean, and you know, everybody in here, I really do highly recommend that you get a link tree, because it just puts everything in a list of where you can find it. So like one link, boom, and they've got a really neat QR code that you can put on business cards.
That's cool. I was looking into that. Yeah. And our readers, our listeners, and I said readers, but our listeners should too, make things a lot simpler. Mr. Zimmerman, you've been doing comics since before I was born. One half Flesh Gordon, one half Flash Gordon.
Yeah, actually, probably truer than you realize. Yes, let me take a look at those.
Where can they find you at?
Haven't drawn a rape robot yet, though.
No, not yet.
Penisaurus is on the other hand. Anyway, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter under Randy Zim. You can find me on the YouTube under the Zim Geek channel, ZIMMGEEK, where I do cartoon instructionals and an occasional opinion piece, which I swear we'll have another one up there before the first of the year, hopefully. Other than that, you're going to find me back here on the Indie Volt Radio Network on Saturday, or not Saturday, but Sunday, and probably Daphne as well if she gets up early enough and doesn't have anything going on in her house, where we do the Sunday Funnies program, where we talk about the more lighthearted and whimsical side of comics, which includes undergrounds and funny talking non-religiously sanctioned funny animals,
exactly,
and other things like that. The more lighthearted and fun parts of comics, and we'll be back here again on Tuesday night for the Live Wire program at 9 p.m. All of these times are Eastern Standard Time, so adjust your clock accordingly. And then, Michael, did you mention the Webtoons program that's on Monday?
Oh, I forgot. Oh my goodness.
Totally forgot. Monday, it came from Webtoons, where Michael Oden and Eric Dreaded Dinosaur Hodson talks about the different comics you can find online, specifically using the Webtoons app, which is a real fascinating show. Their first episode was last week. You need to tune in. You need to listen to that. All of our programs are archived over on the Indie Volt YouTube page. So feel free to go through that. There are hours and hours of nitwittery and listening programs there for your pleasure. And the farther back you go, the more idiotic and stupid we seem. As you go back, and so grab that little time capsule and view some of those shows. Yeah. But other than that, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. we also have Geekgasm, which Meredith and Daphne are currently running through with the help of the Indie Princess, which is Varian's wife, who does an incredible job on that. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. And then again, we'll be back here again next Thursday. In a new year by then, right? Probably.
Yeah, maybe. I believe so. Yeah.
Or is that New Year's Eve?
It just might be. It might be.
We'll be back here next Thursday morning, regardless, for the Breakfast Buzz at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for more silliness and nitwittery. So
yeah. We want to say Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. You'll all be opening gifts. I do have one more stream left of me today.
I have one important short message for that.
Go ahead.
I hope you're having a nice holiday season. I really do.
Everybody wishes you a nice holiday season.
Apparently, we're gonna get hate mail about that.
No matter how many people we trigger, we still wish them a happy holiday.
You've triggered me with the frog man. Thank you guys for watching. I'm KYD_V on Twitter. Varian Grant. You can find me on Facebook, most social medias, and yeah. Again, want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I got one more stream of me today. I'll be doing the Liberty distribution stream, updating everyone on what we're doing and how that's going.
When is that happening?
Probably sooner than I like. Probably around
Liberty Distribution, www.ledg.us.
Yeah, that'll be live on the Facebook. Just going to answer some questions and talk to people about what we're doing and what's going on. But you can follow us, follow right along with us on Indie Vote Radio. I want to thank people listening right now. We were up to 58,945.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for listening. Indie Vote Radio.
Love each and every one of you.
You can download on Google Play or on iOS using the Streamer app. Look up Indie Vote Radio. You can also ask Alexa to play Indie Vote Radio for you, and she'll do that. Outside of that, Roku. I know a lot of you getting TVs tomorrow. If you get a Roku-enabled TV or device, you can download Indie Vote TV. It is absolutely free. Indie Vote TV now officially going to outlive DC Universe. Suck it, Warners.
That is not an accomplishment.
Yeah, no, it's not. But we
you need to make banners of that.
Yeah. We're gonna change it. I gotta actually change that around because some of those content channels have changed. But it's completely free. Check it out on Roku. Download it. We got a lot of stuff up there. Independent movies, some wrestling, and some stuff coming very soon that I can't wait to tell you guys about. Got 2 series coming, so that's gonna be pretty awesome to have up.
Good stuff, man.
Other than that, we're out of here. Thank you guys for watching.
Well, no, we want to let everybody know that you can send your suggestions and comments into us. We would love to hear from you, no matter where you're at, no matter what your opinion, no matter what your situation. Too silly or nothing is too silly or too serious for us to take out. Well, okay.
You may not get the attention you want, but you'll definitely get the attention you deserve.
There you go. Exactly.
Love that.
IndieVote Live at indievote.com. You can include IndieVote Live in the subject line or BrEaKfAsT BuZz if you care to. Please keep those emails to 90 words or less so that Varian can put them on a card or so that we can address them properly. So be succinct. So
thank you guys for watching. Randy, you take us out of here?
I'm going to take us out.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Ciao.
Send all your gifts you don't want to me.
Absolutely. And again,
I hope you're having a nice holiday season. I really do.
We really do.
So much hatred.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Here it comes.
See you soon. Best of holidays. Best in the new year if you don't hear from us sooner.
I better go check the Twitter.
Take care. Check that Twitter. Here we go.
Think about what you've accomplished.
You bunch of losers!